All right, so good afternoon, YouTube fam. Brandon Tarner here. I'm with Alex Harshman. He is the WTF Wholesale to Freedom.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. He's a coach here locally here in the Washington County area, Hagerstown, Maryland. Is this county seat, but Washington County mainly here. Let's see. I guess what else can I say about you? You've been doing the wholesaling thing so many years. I guess tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I've been wholesaling for about 6 years, investing in real estate. That's how I got started, was through wholesaling, and through wholesaling, the methods and practices that I learned and teach is how I acquired a lot of my wealth as far as buying real estate and even flipping a property or two. So yeah, it's been a great experience, and I'm happy to be here.
That's awesome, man. So I guess tell me a little about what wholesaling is. I guess for people watching may not know exactly what wholesaling is, or are you real estate investing, or is it not really investing? It's just, what is it exactly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So what wholesaling is instead of flipping properties per se, you're putting the property under contract, and that contract is what gives us equitable interest. And now we're selling that interest to an end buyer, somebody like myself who's going to buy it and keep it, or Brandon, and or they're going to flip it, whatever they want to do. We're selling that contract. So it's a quick 30-day payday or less usually. You don't have to take on rehabbing the property, managing people. It's very hassle-free. It's a quick payday, and there's a lot less risk involved for that reason. So that's why I like it. It's a really good rags to riches kind of method to get into real estate.
I gotcha. So it's not like you're buying property and you're keeping it long term, no rentals, no toilets, headaches, tenants, none of that mess, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So you're basically looking. So where do I find deals? Like just anywhere in the rural, or how do you figure out where?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to start.
So where do I find deals? Like just anywhere in the rural, or how do you?
Yeah, no worries.
Where?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like to start.
Excuse us here. We're, live and learn, right?
We work through it, right?
We're going to work through the technical difficulties here. So anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, so the best way to find anything, and start with anything in my opinion, whether you're looking for private money, you're wholesaling, is the 3 F's: family, friends, and fools. And so what I mean by that is you start with your family and friends, asking, hey, do you know anybody who might have a house that they want to sell? It's too far gone. Maybe they inherited it. Do you know a neighbor who just wants to get rid of their property? And by starting local, you're taking the path of least resistance, because it doesn't cost any money to network. And so if you're networking with your coworkers, I guarantee you somebody out there knows somebody who had something they need to sell as far as a property. And it's funny, right after our meeting last week for the real estate meetup, when I did my presentation, somebody from that group never did a wholesale deal, never heard of it, anything. This week, yesterday actually, they found a wholesale deal just by networking with their neighbor.
Wow.
Yeah.
I guess it's true then. Anybody?
It is.
Well, so I'm thinking in my mind. So, and the listener might be thinking. So once you do it, then like that area is like tapped out, and that's it. There's no more. Once you fix them up, that's it, right? Or what keeps it going? I would think.
So the deal flow?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So life changes for everybody at all times, and so with people's life circumstances changing, every day something's going on in somebody's life where now they have to relocate because of a job, maybe because the government's shutting down a lot of employment opportunities right now. We're cutting a lot of expenses, a lot of waste, and so that has a cause and effect that trickles down into the real estate market. And this is just a live example, but people need to get rid of their properties because now they have to relocate.
Okay, so it's not always a distressed property. It could be a distressed situation.
Correct.
The human aspect.
Yes.
Somebody might die, like you said, or job transfer, or job cuts. That's in the
exactly.
New line. Gotcha. So it's all that it's the human situation that's so dynamic. It's always changing, and it just creates these opportunities. I guess it would be endless.
Yeah.
It's unlimited opportunity. And in any area, would there be any areas that are, I don't know, too bad or not smart to go in?
Yeah, so you obviously want to stay, in any market you go into, there's a buyer for just about anything, but if you're in an absolute war zone, those areas aren't advantageous to an investor. One, because banks don't like to lend on it. So if they're buying it and keeping it, it's hard to refinance. If they're flipping it, it's hard to find somebody who wants to live there. So, and then likewise, if you're in the higher end, where we're talking millions of dollars, there's a lot less of a buyer pool for those price points. Even in those high price markets, there's a certain cap to where now you're limiting yourself to the potential to offload that deal.
Okay, so it does matter to some extent.
Yes.
Maybe school districts, or like you said, war zones. I guess a lot of drug activity.
Correct.
Avoid those areas. But if we're doing this virtually, how might we know that?
Yeah, so what I was taught by my mentor, and I'm going to share insider secret, is I like to go for a population size of around 100,000 to 500,000. That's kind of the sweet spot, because in that range, you're going to find a good amount of buyers, and typically the average sale price, you don't want it to be any higher than, let's say, 600,000. So there's going to be a lot more buyers from the $150,000 to $600,000 range than there would be for the 600 plus.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense, especially when you have the loan programs, VA loans, FHA loans. I think it's county by county or zip code by zip code. There's kind of a limit there. So I'm thinking Frederick County, the limit might be 900,000, whereas here in Washington County, the FHA limit might be around 6. I'm thinking. So
that's a good point.
Yeah, so your buyer pool, if you go outside of that, your buyer pool is going to drop.
Correct.
That makes sense. Okay. So that's awesome. So really, anybody that doesn't necessarily have any money could do this. Or what about what if there's a realtor involved and they say we need your proof of funds and we need an earnest money deposit, and now you're like, but I don't have any money. I want to get into this, but what would you say to them?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is why I love wholesaling real estate, is because you don't have to have money to get started, and there's free tools that you can use. So, and the way I like to break it down is it's a convenience thing. So if you have the money to invest to get started, you're going to save a lot of time. So you have the paid and the free way. The paid way is going to save you a lot of time, but the free way is going to take a lot of time. So you're using tools that require you to get after it and go hustle. Maybe looking for somebody's phone number, searching the webs through websites like True People Search, opencorporates.com. You're taking a lot of time to find these individuals to call, versus if you had a paid service to skip trace or pull that list, you can build that list almost immediately, but it's going to cost money.
I gotcha. So there's the free way is going to take more of your time.
Right.
If you have time and maybe not much money, and then eventually you might get to the point where you have more money and you can kind of advertise. Or
Correct.
Where would I advertise? How would I do that?
Yeah, so there's so many different ways to advertise. You have direct mail, which is tried and true. I mean, the response rate's going to be probably the lowest of everything, but it is tried and true. You have SMS blasting, but that's constantly being regulated.
Text messages.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So text blasting, cold calling, which is what I got started with and did for the last 5 years. And then you have more passive methods like SEO, which is search engine optimization through your websites, or maybe Google Ads, which is what I do now.
Okay, and then people will find you.
Correct.
Because they're in a bad situation. They're not sure what to do. Do I contact a realtor? But nowadays it seems like people will just search. I'll just Google it, sell my house fast in Hagerstown or whatever.
Exactly.
And boom, and that's where your search engine optimization will put you near the top.
Correct.
And they'll click, and then boom, now you have a lead. They already said, they raised their hand, I want to sell. What will you give me?
Exactly.
And that's going to take us into what will you give them? What's a good deal? I mean, what if, right?
How do you figure that out? I mean, I didn't have any real estate experience when I got started. So how do you go from not knowing anything to figuring out what this property is going to be worth, almost as good as the person that's going to buy it and flip it, because they need to know what it's worth. So here it is, real simple. You try to find 2 to 3 properties that were within a quarter-mile radius, depending on where you're at. So in our area, that would work. In a place like Indianapolis or Baltimore, you're going by street. So ideally trying to find a comp that's 2 to 3 of these comps that are similar in size, bed and baths, square footage, as well as lot size, ideally.
So do I need a realtor to do that for me?
You do not. So you can use this website called Zillow. Everybody's heard of it, obviously. But Zillow, Redfin, a lot of them have sold data. Now, it's not going to be as up-to-date as MLS, but for somebody who does dozens of deals a year, we don't pay for MLS access. We only use Zillow.
So it's free. You just sign up or you go on Zillow. I guess most people maybe today will realize it. I'm just looking in that area within a quarter mile. I'm trying to find a house similar to the one that I'm looking to put under contract.
Correct.
But I have to, the way the conversation goes with the seller is, look, I will buy that property at this price based on some comps in the area. And I guess you have to explain to them, well, you know, that comp was $100,000 more than what you're offering me. Well, what gives?
Right.
So how do you explain that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't try to explain anything to them, because when you do that, it just becomes a battle of who knows what. And it's almost like political. If you go to a family meeting or family gathering and you start talking politics, it doesn't matter what side, you don't get anywhere.
And you didn't convince anybody any different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha.
It's the same thing here. So, and I love that example because it's so true. So what I like to do is I just say, hey, this is what works for us. And because of that, would you consider this amount? And I position it that way every time, because what you want to do, a lot of people are afraid of negotiation. But you want to open it up for negotiation. And on top of that, you want to set that anchor really low. So we already know what the property could sell for by pulling those comps. But now we got to do the wholesaling formula, which says we need to be at 70% rule, which for those who don't know, it's 70% to what it could be worth once it's fixed up.
So, okay, so the houses that did sell recently that look great, there's the fixed up, that's the number you go with, right? And you're taking 70% of that, and that's going to be what you offer?
So at that point, now you're subtracting any repairs it needs, because the investor who's buying it, if they're flipping it, let's say, they're going to want to be all in at 70%. Now, this is not a hard and fast rule. Some markets are different, like Washington State. They will pay up to 85, 90%.
Whoa.
But in our market, people like to be at 65, 70%.
Okay.
Because the prices are a little bit different.
Because of the pricing or any other factors, like maybe days on market in the area?
All that plays a factor.
That all plays a factor.
Yeah, so I mean, but on a very like simple level, 70% rule is a good rule to underwrite it at, because I feel at 70%, unless you're in a really depressed market, you're going to be able to sell that deal all day. So 70% minus your repairs, and now you got to add in your fee, and which is whatever you want to make. But typically in a market that's not a high-end market, you're looking at 10 to 25,000.
That's your wholesale fee, you're calling it. It's like your assignment fee.
Correct.
So because you're going to assign your contract to the end buyer, the guy that's going to buy it, and then they're going to be the ones to put the money in, to hire the contractors, to fix it up, and then ultimately resell that property.
Correct.
Right. Okay, that makes it. And those are generally the buyers you're looking for. Those rehab style buyers, and I guess they're generally going to purchase with some financing or what?
Yeah, great question. A lot of times our buyers they're going to be what I like to call serious cash buyers, and they have cash set aside for this specific moment. You bring an investment opportunity, they have either somebody who's going to lend them money, so hard money loans, or maybe a private money lender, or they're going to use their own cash. And the reason why we want to use those is because we offer a hassle-free sale to the sellers as a benefit to get this really, I mean, as you can tell, minus 70%, minus our fees, minus repairs, we're already getting this at 40, 50, 60% sometimes. And so we got to add some kind of value to the seller for that. And it's a quick closing.
Okay. So they're just going to use all cash. They don't need a whole lot of inspections that a mortgage company might require.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that makes sense. And finding the cash buyers in the areas, again, that's just from your networking or what?
Yeah, so you can build your cash buyers list either through going real estate meetups, like where Brandon and I met, as well as going to any kind of real estate grouping. You can cold call realtors. It's one of my favorite strategies in a virtual market, because obviously I'm not there to go to these real estate meetups, and some of them do have online websites. But cold calling realtors is my favorite way, because they usually have a bunch of cash buyers they work with if you're in a good market. And they want that commission just as much as you want that wholesale fee. And so they'll show that property for you. They'll handle pictures sometimes if you want them to, just because they're there and they want to just keep their clients happy.
Okay. I think I'm getting it here, and hopefully our audience is as well. So you're going to find the property. We figured out where to look, how to get that. It comes your way. You figured out kind of how to give some kind of valuation. You make your offer, and you try not to negotiate. I guess you try not to get into a fight with them, right? So maybe you can just overly simplify. You basically explain, look, that property is 100% fixed up. Yours obviously needs some work. This is why our numbers fell there. They can kind of get an understanding where you're coming from. You guys agree, and then you say you find the cash buyers, real estate meetups, these things, or call realtors.
Yep.
They even know in the area, ones that are pretty active.
Yep.
Okay, and then at that point, the buyers want to see the property, so and the realtor will handle that with the seller in the property.
Yeah.
And most sellers, you found that they're okay with that, or what?
Yeah, so it's definitely a process. You want to set that expectation for everybody. And it's just as if you were going to hire an employee in your business, a new coworkers coming in and you're onboarding them, whatever the case may be, you set that expectation up front of how you're doing business. Hey, my contractors, my investor partners, cash partners, whatever you want to call it, are going to be walking through the property because we want to make sure, number one, the property is what you say it is and do our due diligence. Yep. And number two, we want to try to get the best bid possible for the renovation because that's how we're able to make these numbers work at where we have them. They're like, no problem, just schedule it with me, or I have a lockbox, or whatever. And so from there, what you do is you set that expectation with the seller. Hey, whenever they come through, don't ask them any questions. They're not going to know. If you have a question, you can ask me directly. Likewise, if for some reason they ask you a question, have them reach out to us because we're going to know the answer. And they may be confused on who to ask the question to.
Okay, so it sounds like the seller is going to have to be on board with what you're trying to do somewhat, and you're saying just give them up front. Go ahead and prepare them mentally. It's almost like you're educating them a little bit.
Yeah.
And then that way they're not taken by surprise. They kind of expect other people are going to need to come see the house.
Correct.
And you're telling them this could be contractors, investor partners, that maybe your funding partner.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow. Okay, and then now you get it under contract. As far as the buyer wants to buy it, you're looking at whatever the buyer offers. You make sure it falls within your guideline. And is there any times where they offer less than maybe what you have it under contract?
Yes, and it's all part of the territory. Unless you're growing up in the market that you're wholesaling in, it's going to be a learning process. And so I try to underwrite it the best I can. But I don't know it as best as maybe Brandon that's in that market locally, who's been flipping for 20 years. And I'm just a wholesaler who just got my first property under contract there. So if Brandon says, hey, your numbers are way off, I need to be 50 grand lower. What do I do? At that point, I say, okay, I appreciate that. Is there any reason why you would say that? And then, so I start to learn from you and understanding the rehab estimates in that market. And maybe things are a little bit more expensive, or maybe they're less expensive compared to my market. And so I'm gaining these valuable insights that I would take me years to learn unless I invested there myself. And so I'm learning off of you. And on top of that, I say, Brandon, well, if I can make that 50 grand less work for you, are you saying you're ready to move forward today? And he says, yeah, I want it. So now we have a deal because I can put it under contract contingent upon me being able to go back and renegotiate the seller. There's no risk to you. It's only benefit. And for me, it's just making the numbers work. So I don't care one way or the other. I just want to make it work for you and for the seller.
Okay. I think that's an important point you just said there. So you can actually make that contract with that buyer contingent upon you being able, I guess you just word it in such a way, being able to I guess, provide that number with, you got the seller.
Correct.
Right? Okay. I guess there might be some specific wording there to kind of make that work. And I guess maybe, and you have a course and you teach people how to do this.
Correct.
I guess talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the last 3 years I spent helping over 500 students, probably closer to 1,000. And one of those students in particular had made a $283,000 wholesale on his first one. Now, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. That person cold called over 100,000 people in his first year and didn't get a deal. And he had a language barrier, so not everybody is, going into this with the strengths and weaknesses that maybe you have. But he worked extra hard. He stayed true to the process, and sure enough, that first deal came around 12 months later for that amount, which is more than what some wholesalers make in their first 10 deals.
Wow, yeah, that's a large amount of wholesale fee. 200 and what?
83,000.
283,000, one wholesale deal. But the caveat to that is he put the work in.
Yes.
He called and talked to
Over 100,000 dials in a dialer.
100,000 dials in a
Yep.
dialer before he found it. But that's awesome. I mean, what a testament to what can be done. That's
Yeah.
most people don't realize they can do it just, I'd say that easy, but it's not really all that easy.
No.
So there is some work involved. Once you put the things in place, maybe get your course. And where will we find that course?
Yeah, so on my YouTube, Alex Harshman, you type in Wholesale to Freedom, you'll see my beautiful bald head on there. And on there, you'll see my most recent video of the presentation I did last week. And on that presentation video, there's a link to join my course. And I'll also send it to you if you want to post this in the description or whatever is easy.
In the description, I'll put that in the description. And other than that, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. I just let people know that you have a course out there, who you are, where you are located. That's mainly what I wanted to cover today, and just like we just went over a brief overview of what the wholesale process is. This is awesome, man. I'm super excited to be here and talking to you. And I guess, guys, look for the link below. And any parting words?
Yeah, so I really appreciate you having me on. I enjoy being here as well. I've learned a lot from Brandon as well. And so the last message I want to leave you with is you don't have to have a course to do this, right? You can obviously watch YouTube videos, get insights from us for free, but it takes a lot of time. It's kind of like the free versus the paid way of marketing. You can shortcut your stream to success by investing in somebody who's already done this before, right? And my first deal I got was $65,000. A week later, an opportunity came up for a one-on-one mentorship with the guy I learned from, and it was over $50,000 to do that. So imagine making the most money you've ever made in 1 month, let alone 1 year, and now you're investing more than half of that into a mentor to learn how to do what he does on a weekly, monthly basis.
Wow, and you did that.
And I did it, and it was one of the best decisions I ever made, because now I know how to do this anywhere in the country. I know I have the systems, the processes, everything, and it's been a huge blessing. And so now I get to help others do the same thing. So if you want to learn from me, obviously the links are there. But yeah, be sure to give him a subscribe if you don't already.
Yeah, like and subscribe. Exactly. You got to throw that in there. Once again, thanks for being here, for taking the time out of your day. Hopefully you get some more people that want to do this, and you get to teach them.